Hi and welcome to the second screencast I'm doing in a series about hybrid cluster. In this part I'm going to show you how you can play with the distributed algorithms that we've built yourself through our web interface. But firstly, to summarize what hybrid cluster is. It's a web cluster product which can be run across multiple cloud infrastructure providers and real hardware. What the software does is it joins up multiple servers into a cooperative group so that they can automatically load balance by moving entire sites around between servers, and also withstand the failure of up to n servers. That's a configurable level of redundancy. So now I'm going to give you a quick introduction to what we are nicknaming the God Pod. You've already seen in the last screencast this page and the Add Cluster dialog, which allows you to set up brand new web clusters. So this is the God Pod itself. What you're looking at here is a live representation of the state of the cluster. You may have seen some of these images on previous screencasts, but now they're available for you to play with directly through this web interface. So at the top here we've got the three servers which make up this cluster. Server 40, Server 7 and Server 78. These numbers just correspond to the last two digits of the IP address of each server. Next to each server is a big stop button, and you can press the stop button to simulate ripping the power cable out of that server. And this lets you experiment with the redundancy guarantees that the cluster gives you. So for example, you can look up which website is hosted on which server and pull the power out of that server and then see that that website stays online. So if I scroll down a bit here, then you can also see there's a legend which shows you which databases and which websites correspond to which of these numbers in the diagrams. Now I'll just take you through these diagrams quickly. The load balancing diagram on the left here, as it says, the larger circles represent your servers, which is the same as instances. So 7, 78 and 40, they correspond with 7, 78 and 40, these servers here. So these are like the physical FreeBSD servers which make up your cluster. Now here in orbit around each server is the websites which are currently hosted on that server. So you can look up here and see, for example, that hybrid cluster website, the hybrid cluster database number 2 is hosted on server 78 at the moment. So this diagram on the left shows you which sites and databases are live on which servers at the current point in time. With our system, a website is only ever live on one server at once, and the system load balances by moving entire websites around between servers, as you'll see in a moment. Now on the right hand side here is a redundancy diagram. What this shows you is the larger circles, these ones here, 1, 2, 3, etc. These larger circles represent the websites and the databases, so they're the same as these numbers here and they correspond with the key here. So for example, what this diagram is telling us is that every single website and database is backed up onto every single server on the cluster. So for example here we can see that number 1, this database called Hello Cloud Scaling, is backed up on 7, 78 and 40, and these correspond to 7, 78 and 40 here again. Now the last part of this God Pod is one of the most interesting bits. You can actually generate HTTP requests by moving these sliders around. So this is quite fun because it allows you to, say, start bullying a server. So now I'm going to show you how we can simulate some load on some of these websites. So let's pick a server and start bullying it. Server 7 here, for example, has sites 6, 7 and 8 on. So I can show you these sites actually. My.cloudscaling is actually the control panel. This is where you log in to add new sites to the cluster, set up databases, websites, etc., etc. I'll come back to this in a minute. But that's my.cloudscaling.hybridbeta.com. We've also got talk.cloudscaling and test.cloudscaling. Test is just a simple blank website that's ready for you to upload your website to, and you can see we've got the latest version of PHP ready and waiting. And talk is a WordPress blog that we set up. So let's start bullying server 7. Suppose that these two websites suddenly both got featured on different news sites and both got very, very busy. What we can do here is simulate that traffic by dragging these sliders all the way up to the top. That means they're going to be hammered with tens of requests per second. What you can see here is that these sites are getting red in the face, and so is this server. Now this visual representation is a real measurement of the amount of load that those servers are under. And what you can see just happened is that server 7 realized that it was becoming much more loaded than the other servers and moved two of its sites onto other servers. One of those sites was number 8, which is busy. So what you can see has happened here is that server 7 realized that it was getting too busy and moved one of the busy sites onto another server, which has now become a dedicated server for that site. In this way, the cluster allows you to go from shared hosting, like this server here, to dedicated hosting for very busy sites. So now I'll take the load back off, and you should see within about 10 seconds the fact that those sites have stopped being thrashed will show up as the load will fade away. And there we go. So that's a load balancing demo, and it shows that the cluster can automatically react to the amount of traffic that's on different sites on the cluster by moving sites around. Now I'm also going to give you a redundancy demo, and I encourage you to try this for yourself as well. So let's go into the control panel and set up a new blog. Hover the mouse over here and you'll see that this allows you to choose how to initially set up your website. So let's go for a WordPress blog. Click WordPress. Now into this box we need to pick a name. So let's call it screencast. And as soon as I click dot, the control panel automatically suggests that I might want a subdomain of cloudscaling.hybridbeta.com. And this is how I recommend that you set up beta websites, because this will just automatically work for you and you won't need to mess around setting name servers for domains or anything like that. So select that and click it. This has automatically detected that it's a subdomain, and then we can just click go. Now what this does, it goes through all the necessary steps in setting up that subdomain, creating the file system for it. Each website is its own ZFS file system, by the way. Also creates the database for that WordPress blog. Now each database is also a separate ZFS file system, and that's how we're able to juggle them around between servers. We can then install the application, unlock the website, apply the new configuration, and continue. So there we go. In a moment this will take you through to this page here. Now this is a perfectly standard WordPress setup. You just need to click create a configuration file, click let's go. Now for database name, see up here it tells you what details to use here. So use database and username screencast clouds. Password is clustermonkey. That's the password for all of your databases for now. And instead of localhost you need to put in 127.0.0.1. That's all listed up here. So you just fill in those details, copy and paste, click submit, and we're ready to run the install. Now screencast demo, screencast, and I'm just going to put my email address in here. Now I'll click install WordPress, and in just a few seconds, WordPress will have been successfully installed. So I can click Login. Now if I copy and paste this, put that in a new tab, then you can see this is a fully functional WordPress blog that's just been set up on this cluster for you. Now, let's go and log in, admin and screencast. So what I'm going to do now, you may have seen this in one of my other demos, is set up a new post in this blog. And then I'm going to pretend that someone pulls the power cable out of that server. And this is something you can do as well, because you'll have access to this as a member of our beta team. So now I'm going to view that post for screencast demo, and this database is about to get destroyed. So let's go back now to our cluster status. We can see here immediately that a few things have changed. We've got a new database set up called screencast clouds, and screencast.cloudscaling.hybridbeta.com has now shown up here as well. So let's see, I think the meanest thing that we could possibly do to a WordPress blog is to delete its database. Database is number 3. Number 3 is on server 78, and we can kill server 78 with this button here. And this literally does simulate ripping the power cable out of that server. Give that a few seconds after you've clicked it, and then this will go red to demonstrate that that server is now offline. The cluster will take up to 20 seconds to realize that that server has disappeared, which you'll see in a moment. There we go. And the cluster has instantly, well, very quickly reconfigured itself without server 78 involved. And if we look now, your database, number 3, screencast clouds, is now on server 40 instead. Now, let's see if you've got your database. Normally, by the way, at this point, if you were to refresh this page after the database had failed, then you'd get a database error. All of your precious WordPress posts would be lost, and you'd better hope you got a backup. But now, just reload that page, and nothing's changed. Your website's still online, even though an entire server failed, and that's the demo. So if you're part of our beta, I really recommend that you log in with the details that we're about to send you in the next few days, and try doing this yourself. And also try going into the control panel and have a look around. There's lots of stuff to play with here. It's not all entirely finished yet, but we're working on it. You can see our Twitter feed and our news feed here, and also encourage you to go under support and go onto our forum. It'd be really nice if you could get some discussion going here, and yeah, I look forward to talking to you on the forum. Thanks for watching.